overwhelmed, helplessness, sadness, depression, hypersensitivity. Sometimes the littlest thing will set you off. Crying spells and constant worry. Sometimes the anger and rage comes out of a lot of hurt and pain. If you have to suffer a lot of hurt and pain, it often happens at a time when you are helpless and vulnerable and you can't do anything about it. And it really hurts and you can't do anything about it. When you get angry, but you can't do anything about it. But sometimes when you're out of that circumstance, you find yourself really angry, you could kill somebody. Behaviorally, sometimes you will see impatience, irritability, people become withdrawn, they don't want to talk to anybody. You could be their best friend, they don't want to talk to you. It's not about you. Personally, it may not be about you, they just don't want to be with anybody right now. Sleep disturbances. Sometimes they will sleep a lot. People with depression have been known to sleep maybe 15 hours a day. What's wrong with you? I'm sorry. Other times, they will get up in the middle of the night and you get early waking. They might wake up at 3, 4 in the morning and start doing things around the house. Mood swings. Sometimes they're really, really happy. Sometimes they do happy. Sometimes they will go very, very depth of despair. Appetite changes. Sometimes they'll eat a lot. They'll just keep on feeding their face. The chocolate, especially the comfort food. The chocolate, the ice cream, those kind of things make you feel good. Other times they won't want to eat at all. And they'll just continue, they'll waste away. Once they'll will have no appetite and lose weight. There are nightmares. Hypervigilance. They're always checking, always looking over their shoulder. Did they lock that door? Did they turn off the oven? That kind of thing. And they can also use very negative coping skills. What are things like excessive drinking, smoking, drugs, promiscuity, things like that. They're just out of control. They're just trying to seemingly feel some kind of way. Accident proneness. Tripping over things, always bumping into things. They're always having these minor accidents. They lose things. Impulsivity. These things go out and they spend. And then they come back and they look at the bill. Credit card announcement. Explosive anger. It's just something small happens and it's like a volcano. There's a time when my son used to go to the volcano club. We were there to help her to manage his anger. I just remember him coming home and saying, "Mom, I went to the volcano club." Oh well. I'm sure we learned a few things. Spiritually, things begin to question the meaning of life. Why am I here? Why is it so painful? Why do I have to go through this? Where is God? Why did He abandon me? Loss of purpose, lack of self-satisfaction, and not happy with things. People can have a lot materially, but not happy. This is why sometimes wealthy people will take their own money. All their jewels, all their houses, their clothes, their furnishings, everything that has value doesn't really mean much. And they can sometimes they can also become very angry with God. Interpersonal relationships. Well, if you're withdrawn, it's not easy to have a relationship with who's withdrawn, whether it be your brother, your husband, your girlfriend, just withdrawn. Decreased interest in intimacy, mistrust of people, isolation from friends, impacts on parenting. Very difficult sometimes to be a good parent. We've all heard of stories of people who have, in the news, who have hurt their children, neglected their children, abused their children. And they project their anger and their blame on other people. Something happens, it's not my fault, it's your fault. Why did you do that? Intolerance and loneliness. Be incredibly lonely experience. Physically, there are physical signs, things like shock, sweating, rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing, psychosomatic reactions, things like hives, ulcers, insomnia, aches and pains that seem to have no physical bearing, lightheadedness, dizziness, impaired immune functioning. Some of the names of some of these, I already mentioned that. Okay. How does the world deal with these people? Sometimes not very kindly. As was mentioned earlier, in extreme cases, they can be institutionalized, and powerful psychiatric drugs are used on them, injected into them. Electric shock treatment. Particularly for the men, a lot of force can be used because they themselves are stronger than perhaps the female counterpart. So they can strap them to beds and strap them in chairs. We jokingly talk about the man coming and taking away in a straitjacket. Straitjackets are basically like that. You can't move. Can't harm anybody else, you can't harm yourself. What other ways do we deal with it? Well, I mentioned drugs, but even for those who are not as severely incapacitated, I'm sure you've all heard about drugs like Paxil, Ritalin, Prozac, the happy pill. These are all drugs that are used to deal with mental illness. And the effects of the drugs can be effects on concentration, again, memory, weight gain, loss of sexual desire, numbness. Basically, the person can be there, but they're really not there. They're just there. They tend to be stigmatized. Oh, you're crazy. Also, you gotta watch him. He's off his head. He's retarded. And sometimes they suffer things like abandonment, homelessness. There's a whole lot of misunderstanding. People don't understand them. They're not easy to understand because they're doing things that don't make sense to normal people. Although what is normal? And those are the things, those are some of the symptoms, the symptomology that is associated with mental illness. I think now I'd like to share some of my story. By now you realize that I've had some exposure experience with mental illness. My first exposure was probably when I went to university and I studied psychology. I spent 4 years studying psychology, and I was reading about these things about these things in your textbook. Learning about what's going on physiologically with the brain chemistry and the different symptoms, and